really grateful to have you here today. So just glad to see you all out there. Grateful to have another opportunity through Mind Body Solutions to share this practice of mindful meditation, trying to find ways to live with a little more knowledge of ourselves, a little more calm, a little more ease, whatever it is that brings you back to these sessions, to explore these techniques to train the mind to be able to see what it is that we're thinking, because most of the time we're not aware of it. And just grateful that folks in the community continue to be interested in sharing this practice with us for our benefit and for the benefit of everyone. And my teachers remind us all that, that this intention that we have in showing up to do this practice is really, it is a benefit both to ourselves, that we're finding ways to live with a little more ease in our lives, but it's also a benefit to everybody around us too, because when we're more at ease, we can be with others in a more easeful way. So we'll begin the practice, as we often do, with just a brief grounding sit. So just take your meditation posture, whatever works for you, whether sitting, standing, lying down, feeling grounded in the body, a way that you feel supported and stable, yet you're able to have a sense of uprightness and also relaxation. So all three aspects of this posture, in whatever pose works for you, feeling grounded, upright, relaxed, and with your eyes closed if it's comfortable, so you're not distracted, or at the very least having a soft gaze, not looking around. And we'll let the bell transition us into the first meditation. So the fading of the sound of the bell. The bell is a reminder that we're transitioning from this process of arriving, maybe the busyness that was happening before, and reminding us that we're coming into this with the intention of doing this exploration of this mind, this body right here, right now, training the mind to pay attention to what's happening right here, instead of running off and thinking about the past and the future like it normally does. Giving ourselves the gift of presence. And so let's start by being present, noticing just what the mood of the mind is right now. Is it still kind of scattered, busy with the process of arriving, still unsettled, or is it welcoming the quiet? Is it feeling at ease? Is it groggy? Is it alert? What's the general energy of the mind? We don't judge it, we just notice it's like this. And then bring the awareness down into the body, the whole body, just getting a general sense. Is that at ease, at rest, or is there a sense of agitation, wanting to move, or tension? And just a general sense of the overall energy level of the body, the mood of the body, if you will. And again, we don't judge this either, we just notice it's like this. So often we don't pay attention to the body, we're all living in our heads. How is the body right now? Can we let go of the usual chatter, the usual narrative, and let the attention rest in the body? Maybe in the grounding of the feet on the floor, or the body supported on the chair, or whatever we're resting on. Or maybe the mind can rest in the sensation of the breath, breathing in, breathing out. Where in the body can the mind rest the attention and stay interested, curious, moment to moment to this experience of this mind resting in the body, resting awareness in the sensation of the body. And there may be thoughts that come to mind, and they may arrive, but let them just move on. There's no need for them to linger. And coming back to resting the attention in the body itself. The breath, sensations in the body. Maybe we'll be receiving some noises or something. We can let those come and go. So this receptive awareness, the mind resting in the body, awareness of the body sensations. Watching them come and go moment to moment. And if thoughts come up, not pushing them away, but just not getting caught in them and just coming back to a gentle, kind attention to how it is in this body right now, this mind resting in this body. So we're being receptive, we're listening to how it is right now, this receptive awareness, rather than a doing or a thinking about. Can we just be receptive to the sensations in the body, the sense of groundedness, the energy being received and let go of as we breathe. So the mind being receptive, just receiving, listening to how the body is. And with this receptive awareness, we can notice again what the mood of the mind is, if it's being receptive. Is it different from the mood when we first did the check-in? It may or may not be, just noticing. Bring the awareness back into the body, moment to moment sensation. The mind, resting awareness in this body is like this. And then maybe taking 3 intentional breaths, a little deeper exhalation than normal, and then an even longer exhalation. Deep in-breath, and a deeper out-breath. Deep in-breath, long exhale. Just checking in again. How is it? This mind, this body. It's like this. And we do this over and over again, training the mind to be aware of how it is. Right here, right now, the mind's paying attention in this way. Is it present? Does that presence bring calm or agitation in the mind and the body? We do this to learn more and more about ourselves, the habits of the mind and the body, noticing what leads to ease and what leads to tension. This is our practice. So the bell invites us to let go of that meditation and maybe just taking a moment to notice whatever we might have noticed. And then letting that go and bringing the awareness back to the screen again, back to us gathered here. So that little introduction meditation, one of the aspects I was trying to invite was this receptive awareness, receiving the sensations of the body. And, yes, maybe we received some thoughts too, but not holding on to them. And the part of the reason I chose to do that meditation is to, for us to really notice how it feels when we are in our thoughts, and when we're, the chatter that goes on in the mind, the constant stream of consciousness narrative that usually we're living with most of the day, and how different that is from when we pay attention to the sensations in the body, and especially when we open to just receptivity and listening. And the reason I thought about this is I was thinking about a number of years ago when I was on a really long retreat with one of a meditation teacher. He'd been teaching for like 40 years, so a very experienced teacher. And at the end of the retreat, his parting words, the advice of, what we should do to take this practice back into our lives. And what he said is, be mindful of your speech. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. We just sat in meditation for days and days and days, and we're watching the mind, the chatter in the mind and directing the mind. But here he's telling us to be mindful of our speech. And so he elaborated further on that. And so speech, we always think about what we're saying out loud to other people, or sometimes to ourselves, right? But the speech can also include the thoughts, right? That's a form of speech when we're talking to ourselves in our heads. What's the way, what's the tone of voice we use with ourselves when we're talking to ourselves? What are the directions we're giving ourselves? What advice are we giving ourselves? So that kind of speech he was including, as well as the verbal speech that we do. And that verbal speech can be really important. We know that if we don't pay attention to what we're saying to other people, we can cause harm by what we say to somebody else. And then we feel some level of remorse about that. And then when we sit down to meditate again, and guess what comes up? Well, it's the regret about what I said to so-and-so, or what I didn't say that I wanted to say, so all these things around speech, we're such verbal creatures that this languaging is something that is a really good thing for us to be mindful of. So here we are, we're here to do mindful meditation. It's like, what does speech have to do with it? Well, it has everything to do with it. How we speak to others in the world, to some extent, determines how calm we're going to be when we sit in meditation, right? If we spend a lot of time chattering with everybody else, when we sit down to meditate, guess what the mind's probably going to do? It's going to chatter the whole time we meditate, because that's what it wants to do, So it's a really good practice, both on and off the meditation cushion, to be mindful of speech. And this is, we talk about that mindfulness doesn't end just in this meditation session. What we're doing is training ourselves for being in the world. And so that all brought to mind that there is some guidance, some really good guidance that I got from my teachers about these aren't commandments for how to do good speech, right? This is all judging stuff, right? But these are just really interesting things to watch when we feel like we want to speak to somebody else, or when we're talking to ourselves in our meditation, right? What's the tone of voice? What's the content of what we're saying to ourselves, whether it's in meditation or in daily life? So the things to kind of keep an eye out for is what I'm about to say or think or, verbalize. Is it really true? Right? That's the first guideline. So is it really true? And in other sessions, we've talked about that. What we perceive as a truth isn't necessarily the truth. So when we feel a compulsion to say something to ourselves, like, you're a bad meditator, there's a good one. Is that really true? Right? Or is it just a perception or a judgment? It's not necessarily really even true. Or if we're going to say something to somebody else, is what I'm about to say to them, is it really true? Or is it something I heard through gossip or something that might be true, but I don't really know the facts about? So before I feel compelled to say something to myself or to others, is it really true or factual? So that's one guideline. The second one, before we speak or think, is what I'm about to say, is it beneficial or helpful? Right? Something may be true, but it may not be beneficial to tell somebody that, right? So, and the same with the languaging that we're giving ourselves. It may be helpful to remind ourselves to go back to the breath, but it may be harmful if we're doing it with like the next piece of guidance, which is like, what's the tone that we're using? If we have something that might be beneficial, but we're using the wrong tone, then that combination is not really the thing that we should be encouraging. So is it truthful? Is it beneficial? Is it the right tone? Is it the right words? Is there a sense of goodwill, like a positive approach to what it is we're about to say? Or, is there just a tinge of judgment or wanting to get even or wanting to anger or whatever, like, is there some ill will in there? But are we ready to speak from a place of goodwill? And then is it the right time? So there in meditation, it may be good to plan your shopping list, but during meditation, is that the time you should be doing it? So that's one example. We want to make, those of us who are list makers, we want to do that when we're meditating. Well, that's a really good idea, but not now. Let's do it another time. We set this time aside. And the same for if we're speaking to someone else. Like, is this really the time to say this, whatever it is I think I need to say, even if it's truth and it's kind? Is this really the time? Maybe there's other people around. That's a conversation that happened in private. Or the timing isn't right because they're not ready to hear it, right? And so that's the other guidance, is the recipient of what we're about to say, are they really in a place where they can hear it? And even when we're talking to ourselves, are we really ready, or are we agitated and not really ready to hear what we have to say? And maybe we know that we're not really going to be speaking truthfully and with enough clarity. So these guidelines or suggestions of things to watch out for, is it true? Is it beneficial? Is the timing right? Is it coming from a place of goodwill or kindness and clarity? And are we or the other recipient really ready to hear it? These are all good guidelines. And even like when we're receiving language from somebody else, are we ready to receive it? If we can feel the trigger come up, can we notice the way, oh, I'm not ready to hear that now, and not be angry at the other person, but just think, oh, like, I'm in a really vulnerable place right now, and I'm not really ready to hear that. And can we calm ourselves down to be able to better hear what the other person has to say? So this guidance, again, how does it relate to meditation? Well, we can practice with these, noticing the effects of maybe not doing these kinds of guidelines. If we're not doing them skillfully, what's the effect? And we can watch it in real time in meditation, right? The way we're talking to ourselves in meditation, or when things come up in meditation, we can notice what the effect is. So that is how it relates to meditation. But then, of course, we take it into everyday life. So I'm going to offer that we can do a meditation practice, and with our usual intention, right? What we always do, we set the intention to pay attention to a meditation object. And then, as always happens, somewhere in there, there's going to be thoughts that come up, right? The thoughts are just silent speech that we give to ourselves, or maybe past conversations will come up and we can notice the effect of past conversations, or conversations with planning for the future might come up, So we can notice these things as they come up in meditation, and just notice what the effect is, if it's beneficial or harmful, as our habits of how we think, how we process language, even just the tone of how it is that we're giving ourselves instructions to be with our meditation object. You know, are we demanding ourselves do that, or are we inviting in curiosity and inviting kindness, you know, suggesting and inviting rather than giving directives? You know, even the tone of voice that we give as we're telling ourselves what to do in meditation, we can watch what the effect is. So that was a lot of verbiage. That was a lot of words. Hopefully some of them were helpful and timely, maybe. And if not, you know, you can receive whatever you received. And we can play with this in the meditation. So I encourage you to let go of all that, the thinking, the processing around that. And, you know, as always, these are just ideas, but let's just practice with a little bit to see directly what the effect is. So taking our meditation posture again. So sitting, standing, lying down, whatever your posture is, just so you can feel supported for the next 15 minutes or so. And we'll let the bell transition us. And fading of the sound of the bell. Coming inwards again with the eyes closed if that's comfortable. Or if not, just having a soft gaze. Coming inward and checking in again on the mood of the mind. What is the attitude of the mind? Is it resisting against all that talking that just happened? Or is it curious about what's going to happen next? Is it collapsing in the quiet? Just what's the mood or the energy of the mind, the attitude? And the body, how's the body? Noticing whatever we notice about the body. So we set the intention for this meditation to be present with a meditation object. Again, the body is a good one because it gets us out of the thinking mind, the planning mind a little more, and choose something, someplace in the mind or in the body for the mind to rest, the breath or a body sensation. So setting that attention to be with that, and then noticing what actually happens when something else comes into the mind other than our meditation object. So setting that intention, just begin your practice, letting the mind rest in moment-to-moment awareness of the body or your meditation object. Can we invite curiosity, receptivity to just receiving the sensations of the body, receiving the meditation object, moment to moment, the mind staying curious, kind, and see what happens next, moment to moment. So checking in with the mind to see what it's paying attention to. Is it still with the meditation object? And if so, what's the mood of the mind? And if the mind's gone off in some kind of thinking, some kind of verbal process internally, what kind of thoughts has arisen? And what's the effect? Can we observe what the mind's doing and feel the effect of what the mind's paying attention to on the mind and the body? Just noticing what that effect is and resetting the intention to go back to the meditation object, moment to moment awareness, this body, receiving the body sensations, noticing how it is moment to moment in this body. That's our meditation object. And see what happens. And checking in to see what the mind's paying attention to. If it's still with the meditation object. And if so, what's the mood of the mind? Is the guidance that the mind is giving to pay attention to the meditation object, is it kind from a place of goodwill? Or is it demanding? Is it irritated? What's the tone that we use with ourselves when we're inviting the mind to pay attention to the meditation object? And noticing that tone of the voice that we're using with ourselves, noticing if it feels beneficial or if it feels harmful. How does it feel? And with any thoughts that may have come up, what's the nature of the thinking? And how does it feel in this mind and this body? And just noticing, not judging, just noticing the effect. And then returning the awareness back to the meditation object, the mind resting in the moment-to-moment experience of the body. Receptive, open awareness, moment to moment in the body. Checking in to see what the mind's paying attention to. Is it still with the meditation object? Is it kindly listening to the meditation object, or is it demanding? Does it feel beneficial or harmful? Whatever it is the mind's doing. If it's thinking, if it's planning, noticing the effect of that as well. Maybe asking ourselves, is this really the time to do this thought, this plan, this memory? Is this really when I want to do this? No, I'm supposed to be just being with the body right now. Can I just come back to the body? Resting the awareness moment to moment, receptive awareness, the mind resting in the body. Listening, sensing the body. Noticing how that feels. Checking it again with the mind, noticing what it's paying attention to. Is it still with the sensation of the body, just receiving it? Or what's the effect? Or is it thinking about something else? And whatever it's doing, is it really present with what's truly happening right now? Or is it making something up? Fantasy, a plan? What's the effect of that? Is it beneficial or harmful? Can we encourage the mind just to be receptive to this moment's experience right here, right now? The sense of presence, the mind observing what's happening right now, and how that feels. What does it feel like emotionally in the mind and the body? Does it cause ease or tension? We do this over and over again to train the mind to pay attention to what's actually happening in our experience, not a story about it. So maybe just take a moment and reflect on the various things you've probably observed during this meditation. The various moods of the mind as they relate to what the mind was paying attention to. Maybe there were a few moments of calm where you were really present with what's happening. Maybe there were some turbulent times when the mind was planning, judging, remembering. Noticing the tone that we use with ourselves. Is it kind and helpful, or is it judging? And noticing the effect. And we do all this in the service of getting to know ourselves better, the habits of mind better, what leads to tension, what leads to ease. And in trying to do this, we're also learning, in trying to learn how to sense that, it might help us be more receptive to seeing what's helpful to others, what's causing harm to others, and how we speak, how we act. So we do all of this for our benefit, for the benefit of those around us. This is our practice, moment to moment. It's like this, right now, this mind, this body, right here, it's like this. It's an act of generosity and kindness. So the bell invites us to let go of that meditation, come back to awareness of the body, the surroundings, screen. So hopefully that there was a little bit of busyness in that practice. I know maybe not as much calm as you might have wanted, but hopefully there was some moments of calm when you were with the meditation object. But hopefully it was just a learning experience, so like just noticing what the habits of the mind are. How is it that we're giving directions to ourselves? What's the tone of voice? What's the effect? And what are the habits of the mind and thinking? And all of this in the service of mindful speech. So when we watch it in meditation, we can take this into our daily life, and those general guidelines of watching when we're interacting with other people, when we're about to say something, like really observing that we feel the need, right? That's something we can notice, like feeling that, leaning into that. And then just pausing and really noticing, feeling that need, and then like noticing, like, what is it that I really feel like I have to express? What's the feeling that I have to express? And then we can decide if we actually are going to speak. And that approach, I'll give a plug for a book that was really useful to me, this Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. Was a really transformative book to really looking at the nuances of how we speak to others, how we receive speech from others, and a way to be more at peace with ourselves and others in a nonviolent world. And if you watch the news, or if you receive the news and feel the tone of the news, we know how harmful tone can be, and delivery and content. And this book really helps to kind of understand what leads to stress and tension in relationships as we're trying to communicate with one another. But I find that it's also those same techniques. So he talks about observing the effect of someone's speech on us, or my speech on someone else, tuning into our feelings. What is it that we're really trying to convey? And then he offers some techniques for how to be more effective and less harmful as we're speaking. And so we can do this when we're talking to others, but especially it needs to start with ourselves, and like how we speak to ourselves, and really noticing that. And in meditation, we can watch that inner voice, sometimes the inner tyrant, not the inner grandmother, not the inner nice grandmother. So just paying attention to that and seeing what we can learn. So I just offer all this for your consideration. Hopefully something's been useful, and if not, you can let go of all those words and just go into the body. So thank you so much for your practice.